I got it. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. It's Tarrah here with Tarrah TV, where you'll learn how to get more out of life with tips and inspiration and guidance on topics related to lifestyle, business, and family and wellness. And today I'm very excited to have a couple of people join me. And we're going to talk about how everyday people are creating wealth and freedom by starting businesses in their spare time. And we've focused this week on education and the educators that are in business for themselves now, part-time or full-time. And so I've asked Brooke and Hannah to join me today, and we are going to talk a little bit about how they began the road and the path that they're on. So before we do that, though, the career landscape has dramatically changed, and you guys might know this or might be affected by something like this. And what worked for previous generations isn't really working that well for people today. And so people today are feeling overworked and underpaid, and teachers are in that group for sure. They have, I think, one of the most, they get thanked maybe all the time, but it'd be great if their pay could reflect that when it, and if they had less time, they have less freedom, and they live under constant pressure, right? So in fact, there is a better way, and we wanted to talk about that today, that comes to making a living and still using the gifts that you have been blessed with. So I want to welcome Brooke Bush, and I would love to have her take a moment to tell you a little bit about her and where she's from. And I would like, let's see, the first thing I'd love for her to talk about is just kind of what she was doing, what kind of just right out of the gate, what you were doing that we talked about yesterday. So Brooke, thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you, Tara, for having me. This is a fun opportunity to share a little bit about my journey so far with Shackley. I am coming live from Aiken, South Carolina. That's to orient people. We're about 30 minutes from Augusta, Georgia, where the Golf Masters are played. And I was born and raised in Colorado, so not a native to the South, but went to school in Tennessee, went to grad school in South Carolina, and have stayed here. Moved to Aiken once I got married in July of 2017. And that's when I made the big transition to working Shackley full-time. But before that, I was actually working at Clemson University in the Center for Career and Professional Development, kind of your typical career center on a college campus. And I was an assistant director of career development there, and absolutely loved my job. I was working with students. With my background in counselor education, I was working with students, helping them kind of either make the next step for what to major in, or the next step post-graduation, finding internships. And we looked a lot at resumes, cover letters, and of course, interviewing skills. So that was definitely an opportunity for me to be in a teaching role, as well as an advising role with graduate students. And I loved it. It was a really great opportunity to use my counseling skills and do a lot of sitting down with people one-on-one. And now what I do very much looks like that. I just have much more flexibility. So today I'm actually in my counseling office, and I can do a little survey here. This is an office where I meet with clients, and I see about 8 clients a week. I consider this very part-time, and I love being able to use my license and stay active. But what I do full-time is I sit down with people now and talk about health and wellness and ways to have a future being entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Well, what did you, I guess you maybe touched on a little bit, but what did you like about the profession that you were doing and still are part-time? And then what was it that wasn't working for you necessarily with that full-time?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was working at Clemson full-time, I found my life was really, really busy and very full. And I loved my life. It was a very fun season. I enjoyed getting up every day and going to work, and I loved working with my coworkers. They really became friends. I was very blessed to work in an office setting where I could see myself staying for years. But the more I stayed there, the longer I was with people who had been there for 10, 20, even 30 years. And I started to imagine myself 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, even 20 or 30 years down the road, and had trouble imagining myself as a mom working full time. And I also was clocking in and out, and we had a system where we had to be in our seats at our computers. There was a short time that I had to be in my seat in order to clock in. And if I was like 7 minutes late, then I had to stay 7 minutes over. And I just felt that my time was very regulated. And ultimately, I desired more freedom and flexibility. So when my fiance at the time proposed, we were living long distance. I knew that once I got married and I moved to him, that would be a great opportunity to transition to the type of lifestyle that I wanted long term. And that was that flexibility, because our desire is to have a family, and I wanted to be able to give my kids my best during the day. And I knew that at work, by the time my workday was over, I had minimal energy, both physical and emotional, to invest in others. And I wanted to be able to give my future family my best. So for me personally, that has been the best option, to be able to one day be a full-time mom and work from home. Of course, sometimes that's working from the car. If I'm driving with my husband and he's at the driver's seat, I'm texting and emailing and calling people. It's very, very flexible. But ultimately, I wanted to be able to maintain more focus at home.
Tell me a little bit about what you do with your health and wellness business, and a little bit about the texting in the car, and the flexibility that you do have. Kind of what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, my business is, I've called it Life to the Fullest. And I just love that Shackley has allowed me to live my life to the fullest. And when I say that, I mean, I have the margin and the time now to invest in the relationships that are most meaningful to me. So that starts in my home. My husband and I are able to have meals together. I'm able to have breakfast for him in the morning, and we're able to have some meaningful time together before our day starts, and then also conclude time together in the evening. We also have been able to travel a lot in our first 2 years of marriage, which has been really special. A lot of our relationship was long distance, so it's been a great season of just continuing to deepen our relationship and marriage before having a family. I also have the privilege of working with my parents, who are my mentors in my business, and I'm able to travel to them and also have them come to me, and we can do events together. And then I've been able to, it's just so funny, I'll sit down at the end of the day and tell my husband, Derek, I met so-and-so, and I'm, sharing this product or this opportunity with them. And these are people I would never have had the opportunity to get to know had it not been for Shackley. So that might be me going to, I play in a tennis league. So the other day I was at a tennis tournament. I brought a sample of a hydrate drink, which is kind of like a Gatorade, but without the nasties. And I brought a sample to a player that I play with, and she was asking about protein. So I was showing her about a protein canister, and then another woman was chiming in. And this is a woman, I've now been in her home, and she's coming to my home tomorrow. And I never would have had any opportunity to, befriend her. But Shackley's been a great avenue to get to know people. Ultimately, it's a people business. And that's why I got into the counseling field. I want to, work with people, and I'm a natural helper. And Shackley's a great avenue for helping people. So at the end of my life, I want to be able to say that, the time I spent was doing something that had lifelong value. And I know that health and nutrition does indeed.
Absolutely. No, that's something that you were blessed with, to have the talents to connect with people. And this is a connecting people business. That's absolutely true. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Oh, Hannah Sharapan, I'd like to introduce you and say hello, and tell us a little bit about your connection to the education component of what we're talking about today, and then also what you did to get started in the business that we're in.
Okay. Well, first off, I am Hannah Sharapan from Hermitage, Pennsylvania, and Fort Myers, Florida, about half and half now. And I do give a great shout out to Brooke. She speaks so well. And of course, I've adored her for many years, and her parents, and we are very dear friends. And so it's really neat to be doing this with you, Brooke, for sure, as well as with Tarrah. And actually, our story was kind of unusual, because I was a teacher in my mind. Well, actually, I did it from my backyard. I had my own school for 6 years, from the time I was 14 till I was 20. And I knew that I wanted to do that as a career. But what I really wanted to do was make something that would happen at the preschool level so that I could create stimulating the creativity in the children, because coloring books don't, and because I also could see that it would be a way to help develop their self-image. So I really knew I wanted to make a difference through teaching. And of course, going down the route, of course, we know now that all I did was switch from teaching children to teaching adults and being able to watch them blossom and grow, which is one of the main reasons why I fell in love with Shackley as well. And when we first, why we looked at all, because I was very happy with what I was doing. Didn't make much money, but was certainly happy with what I was doing. And Alan was in the insurance business. No, even though he was successful, having 3 weddings. So we thought we should have a side business and everything. If you've ever looked into businesses, you may notice that they are high risk, high investment, take lots of time. We didn't have any of the 3 of those. So we put the idea in the back burner and wound up hearing about Shackley in a very unusual way. But right away, the first thing that I was impressed with was the integrity and philosophy of the company. That kind of culture was very important to me. I had felt like this would be a way that I could actually be doing what I always had done, a lot of volunteer work. And this was a way I could do something that felt like volunteer work, but get handsomely paid for it. So I thought, if this is a way that I can still build and still at the same time continue my preschool, because I hadn't intended to end it at that point, then I would be on board. And of course, because I had health issues with Crohn's disease, it was critical that I could use the products, because I could not use other vitamins that I had tried over the years. So fortunately, I got phenomenal results with my health, with everything from the Crohn's disease to migraine headaches that I had suffered with from the time I was 5, and some other health issues as well. So of course, we were ecstatic with what was happening. And so we decided to do this on a part-time basis, but within a relatively short period of time, we left our other occupations. I sold my preschool, Alan retired from the insurance business, and Shackley became our careers. Not full-time, you can't say, because it's not full-time hours most often, but certainly that has been our full source of income for the last, now it's almost 38 years for that. And one of the things that we loved is that even though I loved the teaching and loved my preschool, that this was a way that I wouldn't have to have the inflexibility of those hours. You know, I had to be at that preschool long before the kids got there and had to stay until everybody was picked up. A lot of times my friends wanted to do things for the day because I was the only friend who was working, and you know, I couldn't get to ever be with them. And I had to have babysitters because we had small children. So there were certain things that was certainly impacted everything from our time to our freedom, for sure. But most importantly to us was the ability to be able to turn around and make a difference in other people's lives. And the reason I think that teachers are so well suited for this business is because what we really are doing is teaching. We're teaching and we're training. That's the major function. And had it been a sales business, I would have said no. In fact, I had said no to the sponsor until he explained to me how I could instead do the teaching aspect of the business. And we were at one of our conferences, and they asked, were all teachers there, or anybody who was a former teacher or current teacher, would they please stand? 1/4 of the room stood. So I think that speaks well about how successful teachers and former teachers are in Shackley.
Absolutely, that's amazing, and it does lend itself with the things that you are and you do and you want to be and inspired to be as a teacher. Those qualities definitely transfer over. So thank you for sharing. Hannah, what advice would you give teachers and professionals in the education business and setting that felt the same way you might have, that you did? What advice would you give them about maybe stepping into this role as an educator in the wellness business?
Well, actually, the good news is that if they choose to stay, if any of you want to remain as a teacher, at least for now, the beauty of our business is you can do this along with that career. That's first of all. But secondly, you may find, as I did, that even though with the little ones, you know you're making an impact, and you certainly want to know that that's what you're doing is important, that there is another kind of reward when you're teaching adults, because you can see the changes in their lives maybe more rapidly. Also, it gives you the opportunity to have more flexible hours. It gives you the opportunity to be recognized according to your efforts. I have always felt that teachers are very under-recognized, both by income and actually, just by, it's not viewed as the same kind of professional as certain other professions. And I think it should be, because I think it's one of the most important occupations you can possibly do. So I would say, whether you do this part-time or you have it in mind to be a career, you'll be able to transfer those same skills you already have, and you'll be able to use them and now really be able to get paid what you're worth and be able to lead a lifestyle that's absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. Brooke, do you have any advice for anybody that might be finding themselves in a similar situation that you were in and feeling the same way you did and are for this kind of a business?
I would encourage anyone who is either feeling like they have kind of reached capacity in life, maybe feeling a sense of daily stress or demand, or just a sense of being overwhelmed, maybe constantly, to consider that there might be another way, and that life doesn't have to be the norm in this life. And it really shouldn't be the norm, health-wise, just physically, emotionally, mentally. We shouldn't be under constant stress. But I know that is often what life demands. And that's where Shackley can come in and offer another opportunity for passive income. Mm-hmm. So what I would encourage someone in the situation I was in was to be open-minded to considering creating something now that you will love and be grateful for later. And that requires considering who you're going to be next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and then to go ahead, take it 20, 30 years from now. And what type of lifestyle do you want? How do you want to be spending your time on the weekends or over the holidays or just during the week when your kids are X, Y, and Z ages? What do you want, when you are empty nesters, and then work backwards and see what you can do today. But I would say to anyone who is considering doing this, just to let you know, it is so possible, and it's hard at times, but it's so rewarding. And ultimately, when I break down how many hours a day I'm working, it's not as many as I was working at the Career Center. Now, there's times I'm working on the weekends, but it's not taking away from my weekend, and I can do it in little pockets of time, even when I'm in the car, like I mentioned. It really can fit into a very busy life. And I know of someone who years ago built her entire Shackley business. She was earning about $700 a month. And she was getting a reduced price on her own product. She was called a director. And she earned, and she made her entire business work within the hours of 8 and 5 p.m., but she worked a full-time job. So she built her Shackley business entirely over her lunch breaks. And she would meet with people and have lunch with them and have coffee with them and share. And ultimately she had this beautiful foundation of something to build from. So it's possible. And if you ever have just even an inkling of interest, talk to Tarrah, because she is a wonderful leader. And we don't always come across wonderful opportunities like this. And I would just encourage anyone to be open-minded.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to say that I really like how you said, looking into the future, sometimes we're so short-sighted. We do kind of look at the future, but then we look at, it will be what it is when we get there, but to really look at the vision for your life, where do you want to be in 5 years and 10 years, and write it down and make a vision board or some kind of, a note to refer back to, and then working backwards. I really love that, you mentioned that. That's a good tip. So, if you have the slightest interest in becoming an entrepreneur, I encourage you to reach out to me, to Brooke, to Hannah, or whoever invited you to this webinar and schedule an appointment or a tour of my online classrooms and evaluate what you can do, and you can learn the benefits that we offer, the system that I use and they use to manage their customers, how to create sales without selling, and what the products are that we're talking about. And there are options for everyone to get started. So I just would have you, the information is free, and if you are interested, I'd love to have you come through that with us. So again, a thank you to Brooke and to Hannah for joining me on Tarrah TV today. And we thank you for being here and the information that you guys have given us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. And we'll see you soon on Tarrah TV.